Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, where every day we talk to a different tech leader, startup founder, and even the occasional celebrity about how technology is transforming their world, their business, and even life. And I feel like today's episode should be sponsored by Terry, the Sky engineer that fixed my internet connection. A dodgy faceplate took my fibre connection from 70 meg to only 2 meg, which made recording podcast conversations quite difficult. But I have to give credit where credit is due. Sky have been absolutely brilliant. Terry arrived at 5:30 today and ensured that our 6 p.m. podcast recording happened. So Terry, if you are listening, I salute you, my friend. But on with today's show. Now, amazing personalised experiences often start with a seamless partnership. Speaking of which, Adobe and Microsoft have recently come together to unite data, content and processes so you can transform your business and deliver the exceptional experiences that your customers want at any time on any device. In fact, across all touch points. But what does this actually mean to you and your business? Well, I'm excited to get Lisa Croft from Adobe onto the podcast, who's going to tell us all about the blossoming friendship between Adobe and Microsoft, and also explore Adobe Document Cloud and the Microsoft app integrations. Lisa has over 20 years of experience in the technology industry, utilising various enterprise software solutions. But enough from me. Buckle up and hold on tight so I can beam your ears all the way to Texas so we can speak with Lisa Croft from Adobe. A massive warm welcome to the show, Lisa. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Sure. Thanks for having me. My name is Lisa Croft, and I work for Adobe. Specifically, I work in our digital media organization, which includes the Document Cloud and the Creative Cloud products. I run a team that handles enablement for our field, so making sure that the field sales teams have everything they need and understand what they need to know about the products and how to sell them and how they work. But I also do enablement for partners to make sure they have what they need to understand our partners. And then I do a lot of customer enablement as well, so talking with customers, understanding how they're using the products and helping them get better use out of the products across their organizations.
And there are a lot of headlines around the digital transformation at the moment, and so many businesses are involved in digital transformation initiatives. But I'm curious, as you're working very closely with some of the biggest brands in the world, are there any trends in the kind of challenges that businesses are encountering? And if they are, can you possibly share some of those main challenges companies are facing in their own digital transformational journeys?
Yeah, we hear obviously about lots of challenges, and you can kind of look at them in different ways. First of all, just looking at industry challenges in general, obviously mobile is very important, and mobility is a challenge for organizations to think about how do they make sure that they're able to present their brand, present experiences in the most mobile-friendly way possible, because honestly, their customers expect that. So that's a challenge. And then being able to just deal with kind of the volume of data that they've got, that whether that data is coming in from gathering information from a customer, whether it is, trends that they're seeing, buying patterns and things like that, or even just internal data that they've got to deal with. And how do they make some sense of that? And that's why they're really looking at digital transformation, is because they've got to make sure that they're meeting these expectations while dealing with their internal business processes as well. What we see, though, is as far as just digital transformation in general, the biggest challenge we hear there is just where did they start? Where do organizations start? They'll come to us all the time and say, look, we want to digitally transform our organization. That's obviously a big term, but what's the best thing to do first? Where do we start first? And it really varies by organization. Some organizations will come to us and say, look, we need to completely change our customer experience. We want to make sure that the customer is seeing us in a better way. We want to present our brand to them in a better way than we've done in the past. And so we want to transform this customer experience. And so they'll start there. And a great example of that is a customer that we have here in the United States. It's the Golden State Warriors, so professional sports team. And what they wanted to do was completely transform the process for their season ticket holders. They had a number of customers that were very dedicated to the organization, and they wanted to make sure that they had the most compelling and thrilling experience possible. And so when they talked to us about transformation, they said, look, we want to transform this. We want to make sure it's as easy as possible to get these customers, these fans in so that they can get their season tickets booked. They can do that anywhere on any device, meet those mobility needs. And then they can track the process. They know exactly what they need to do, but very importantly, they do it as quick as possible. And that was super important to them. So that top priority right there on that customer experience, that's what they did. They put all their focus there. They're seeing huge return on investment with that. In fact, now they can bring their season ticket holders in within hours, get them completely signed up, get them signed, and get their season tickets delivered within hours, where sometimes that process actually used to take weeks. So it definitely wasn't a great experience. Now they've turned that around, and fans actually see that experience, and they see that as a reason to actually want to be a season ticket holder with Golden State. So super big return on investment with that. Now, on the flip side of that, though, as I mentioned, where do you start? A lot of organizations come to us and they want to start with internal processes. And something that I typically say is it's usually pretty difficult to change a customer experience if you don't also have your internal processes automated as well. And so some organizations will decide to go there first, and they'll start to automate internal processes, and a lot of times it's approvals or something that needs to happen internally in order to be able to deliver whatever it is that they're delivering, product-wise or experience-wise, to their customer. A great example of that is actually the state of Hawaii. So state of Hawaii was a customer of ours for a long time. They talked to us about, wanting to really completely transform the state and modernize all of their processes. And they wanted to do that from beginning to end with their citizens and internally with their employees. And so the first thing they did was actually start to automate those approval processes internally, specifically to get citizen services, so that they could get someone approved and make sure that their services were set up. And even something as simple as travel reimbursements. This was a big problem in the state. In fact, such a problem that some of their employees didn't even want to deal with the process. It was so cumbersome. And so they felt like that was actually the best way for them to start in their digital transformation journey. And what that did for them was it helped them modernize the processes. It really improved the experience for their employees, which was very important to them. But it also started saving the taxpayers money. And they've estimate now it's saved over $5 million for the state, directly benefiting the taxpayers. And now they can actually move into making the citizen experience even better as well. So like I said, it kind of depends on the organization. The challenge there is, where do you start? And that's really just up to the organization. What makes the most sense? What is it that you're trying to do? And where are you going to make that best impact and do that as quick as possible?
And if we go back to the summit, which was earlier this year, one of the big highlights for me was how there's a bit of a friendship developing, or a partnership between Adobe and Microsoft. So for people listening that are probably or possibly not aware, can you tell me a little bit more about how Adobe and Microsoft are working together to provide solutions to these challenges that we've talked about?
Absolutely. And you're right. It's definitely a great friendship, has blossomed over many years. And it's great to see as an employee at Adobe, and definitely as a customer of both organizations. What I think is amazing about the partnership with Adobe and Microsoft is they really have a joint vision for their customers around the world. And the vision is about three things. And I'll kind of go into each one of those. First of all, both organizations are trying to help users empower the modern workplace. And we'll talk about that a bit more. The second thing that we're both doing as organizations in our vision is to help enterprises and organizations transform their business processes. And then third, it's about enabling better experiences and really doing that across the board, whether that's inside of an organization or with customers as well. And so it's great because we have this joint vision. And then when you kind of break that down, you see where it starts to make a lot of sense with this relationship. Thinking about empowering the modern workplace, that's all about how do you help users accelerate their productivity and do that in every day, every piece of work that they do, and making sure that they can do that in the tools that they're already using. So millions of folks are using Office 365. We worked together with Microsoft at Adobe to make sure that we could add integrations in to be able to offer the tools that Adobe provides right inside of Office 365. Again, it's about increasing that productivity and helping those users work where they want to work, whether that's on a mobile device, whether that's on a desktop, and whatever tool it is that they choose to use. So that's huge there. I mentioned that transforming business processes is another important part of the vision. This is really, again, about thinking about how organizations move into and modernize processes. And that's digital transformation, really, at the core. And it's automating workflows across departments and organizations. It's potentially documents that have to get approved, that have to get reviewed, whatever it might be that kind of makes the business run. That's what both of our organizations are looking at. And so when you think about the integrations we've put in place there and the partnerships, it's around making sure that whatever tools an organization is using from Microsoft, they can also integrate that in with whatever needs to be done from Adobe. A great example of this is Microsoft Dynamics. So Dynamics is a tool that sales organizations use. They can take those sales contracts right within Dynamics, send them out to a customer for signature, completely track and then get that information back into Dynamics. And they never have to leave Dynamics in order to do that. So they're able to completely automate that process using the tools that they have from Microsoft and Adobe. So really good synergy there. And then the last thing I mentioned was enabling better experiences. And this is about internal experiences, but it's also about customer experiences as well. So the joint vision is thinking about, how do we help organizations serve their customers better? And this is really possible through not only Adobe and Microsoft, but we also have an additional partnership with SAP. And this was announced as part of Summit as well in the Open Data Initiative. And what we believe, all three organizations actually, is that customer experiences are the most important thing to an organization, and they should be. And the Open Data Initiative means that organizations can take the data, I mentioned data being a really big challenge to organizations, but they can weave that together from whatever channel, whatever device that they're receiving it in, and using a single data model, they can create a real-time customer profile. This means that now all these systems can share this customer information, and this ability to focus completely on the customer helps the organization completely reimagine the customer experience and managing that from end to end. And that's hugely powerful when you think about moving forward and what we might do in the future together as well.
And more recently, of course, Microsoft's Business Application Summit, there was a bit of a big announcement around the new Adobe Document Cloud and Microsoft app integrations with that too. So for people listening that are users or businesses, what does that announcement mean for them?
It's really just continuing, I think, to add to that vision. So thinking back to what I mentioned on the vision, if you think about empowering the modern workplace, that announcement directly talked about how Adobe Sign is now integrated into the Microsoft Power Platform. And this platform allows users to create custom Power apps that work for their business. So making sure that they can automate and deal with processes in their organization, in a lot of those cases to help a user be more productive. And we've also added collaboration tools into that as well, specifically in Office 365 apps, so users can view and add comments and annotations to a PDF, and they can do that right within Office 365. So again, delivering to that modern workplace and that productivity. We also added in this announcement some additional expansion of the Dynamics integration. I just talked about Dynamics and the value that it has of being able to transform business processes. What we did in this announcement was we added an integration into Sales Hub. And Sales Hub is a mobile-first sales CRM solution that gives users the power now to send and sign deals and fully close deals faster, and they can do that right from their smartphone or tablet. So it makes sure that they're serving those mobile needs of those sales individuals. So that's hugely powerful. And then also thinking back to experience again, we also had a bit of that in the announcement as well. And what that directly related to is making sure that the experience with any document, including ones with sensitive information, can be fully protected wherever it's stored or open. And this is very important to customers and obviously to organizations, making sure that that information is protected in the right way and it's given to the right person at the right time. Adobe Acrobat and Adobe Reader apps on Windows and Mac can open documents that have been secured with Microsoft information protection. That's very important for users that are in highly secure industries like government, financial services, or biopharmaceuticals, and we announced that as part of the release as well.
I was going to ask who within an organisation or which teams are most impacted by these new integrations, but listening to you today, it sounds like pretty much everyone, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of is. I mean, if you think about the modernizing the workplace, it's pretty much any Office 365 user that's going to be impacted there, whatever it is that they might need to use. I mentioned sales organizations. Obviously, if we're talking about Dynamics, sales organizations are going to see the most benefit there, and especially those organizations that are mobile. You've got sales reps that are just on the ground and they need to get their work done from wherever they are. They're going to see a huge benefit. And then you're totally right. We talked about highly secure industries like government, financial services, biopharmaceuticals, anyone that really needs to make sure that the content is secure when they need it secure and it remains that way, they're going to see benefit from that integration with Microsoft information protection.
And are there any trends that Adobe and Microsoft are seeing that are spurring or could even spur even greater integration?
Yeah, it's kind of the same that we already talked about. Mobile, obviously, we know is super important. It's more important than ever. I mean, it's obviously a huge growth area. And our users continue to demand tools that allow them to get that work done wherever they are. And being able to serve those needs is hugely important when we think about, more integration. Where do we put that? Obviously, Office 365, the more the better. Any tools that we can do to make sure that we're serving the needs of those users are going to be important when we think about integrations in the future. Another thing, though, that users constantly tell us, and a trend that we see, is people want to work in the tools that they already use and that they use every day. They don't want to have to go use a bunch of new tools. If you could go ahead and just make it possible for me to get my work done in the tools that I already use, that would be great. And so that's what's spurring a lot of the integration, again, in Office 365 and in the other systems as well. Help me stay in the environment that I want to work in. And then finally, the other thing that we hear a lot about from a trend perspective is that IT organizations overall are looking for every way possible to maximize the investment they already have made in technology. And when you think about what IT organizations spend, obviously they want to do the best they can to maximize that. And so if they are investing in technology like Office 365, like Dynamics, like Document Cloud or Acrobat or Adobe Sign, being able to maximize that across the organization is super important. And so integrations and partnerships help with that too. Maybe not even just with Microsoft and Adobe, but other business systems that are out there as well, helping those IT organizations find those opportunities to maximize those investments is really important.
And another huge topic that we must discuss, of course, is cybersecurity, which is so important for businesses of all sizes right now. So you did mention a few moments ago around the importance of document security, which perfectly highlights that. But is there anything else you can share about how Adobe and Microsoft are working together to ensure greater security?
Again, very much like our vision around how we help customers, security is a joint vision for both organizations. Both organizations, fortunately, employ industry standard security practices, and this is completely ingrained into our culture. At Adobe, it's also as a part of Microsoft's culture as well. It's in every piece of software they develop and also the services that they create as well. But as we mentioned, securing that content, if you kind of think about security, Microsoft and Adobe are very similar in that we think about security in layers. And we think about it at the very highest level. So is our identity protected? Can only the people that need to access the tools or access the information get to that? So we think about it at the identity layer. We also think about it at the application and the service layer. So working on that together, making sure that that security is intact and that the information is protected as a part of that. But then, as you mentioned, the content is super important as well. And that's really where the integration with Microsoft Information Protection is so important. Microsoft Information Protection, or MIP for short, as they call it, consists of a lot of different tools that you can use to secure content across the organization. It also consists of rules that you can set up so that you can do that in a consistent manner. And Adobe is integrating into that to make sure that we not only respect those rules and that security, but we also can help enforce the rules as well. And so really thinking about security in those layers across both organizations and making sure that the integrations respect those and reinforce those is very important, and hopefully is something that we can help our customers use to combat some of the cybersecurity issues.
And for me as well, the big takeaways from the announcement are all around improving collaboration, accelerating a path to compliance, the digitization of workflows, and of course the ability to close sales faster. But I've got to ask, what excites you most about the announcement?
I think the thing that excites me the most is really about users being able to work in the tools that they use every day. And I've mentioned that a couple of times. But when I talk to customers and when I hear about challenges and, just ways that people want to work, it's really about simplicity at the end of the day. We all do a lot. We have a lot to do in our everyday work. And being able to take that simplicity and bring that into your technology just makes you able to be more productive. And so I think that's the most exciting thing for me, is that both organizations are working together to not only automate and put integrations together to make sure that our users can do what they need to do, but it's about how the user can do that in a more simple and an easier way for them to make sure that they're comfortable, they're using the tools that they use on a regular basis, and that it's easy for them to do that. They don't feel like they've got to go out to another tool, another app, another device, whatever it might be. Make that simple. That is what's really exciting. And that's what users need. That's what they're constantly challenged with. And I think it's great that we're actually thinking about that as part of what we're doing.
And it also seems now that every product, service, business, and possibly even employee must continuously evolve and adapt to the continuously changing digital landscape. So presumably, can we expect other changes, further integrations, and your friendship to continue to evolve with Microsoft too?
Absolutely. I think that the most exciting thing about this partnership is that there's so much more to do together. We've barely even scratched the surface, and we've done so much already, which is amazing. If you think about it, we really want to continue to add more integrations, like I mentioned, making sure that people can get to the tools that they need from wherever they are. Some things like the ability to just understand and be able to compare what's in a document. So you could actually make decisions and do that in a better way. And artificial intelligence really comes in there. Being able to utilize artificial intelligence more, but between Microsoft products and Adobe products, to help people actually make decisions on content and on documents, maybe even driven with speech and text recognition. There's huge capabilities when you think about that. We're also working together to add additional integrations with our joint partners. And this is part of that maximizing IT investment. And again, that's a huge area where we could do a lot more. Being able to look at our partners that we have in common. Nintex is a great example of that. Nintex does a great job with their customers around enhancing workflows and business processes. They do that with SharePoint within Microsoft. They integrate and have an offering with Adobe Sign, putting all of that together and helping our customers understand now how working through all three partners could actually help improve things has a lot of possibility as well. And then there's even more to that, looking at where are those other joint partners, where are those other areas where we could help customers maximize their investments. And then finally, Microsoft and Adobe engineering teams are actually working together. And this isn't something that people always think about. When you think about integrations and kind of what we've done so far, it seems to make sense. Yes, let's go ahead and put that tool right there. That makes a lot of sense. But what we see in the future is what could we actually build together as two engineering teams that would solve problems for our customers and co-develop products and technology together. And that's a huge thing that we have as a part of the partnership going forward.
Well, huge thanks for joining me on the podcast today. But before I do let you go, could I ask that you remind anyone listening that are left with more questions or want to find out more information, the best way of finding that information online, and also even contact a member of your team if they've got any questions?
Absolutely. So we obviously have tons of social channels at Adobe, but specifically the Adobe Document Cloud social channel will get you to where you need to go to get to the right people. So Adobe Document Cloud, we've obviously are on Twitter. We're on pretty much any area of social you can imagine. So Adobe Document Cloud is the right place to go there, or just simply online at acrobat.adobe.com. That will take you into everything you need to know around Acrobat, around Adobe Sign, Document Cloud, the integration and partnership with Microsoft. So hopefully that will get you what you need.
Fantastic. Well, I always say at the end of every episode that technology works best when it brings people together. And listening to you there talking about how Adobe and Microsoft engineers are working together, and the result of that is improving collaboration, accelerating path to compliance, digital workflows, document security. But most importantly of all, of course, it's experience is at the heart of everything. So a big thank you for sharing that message with me today, Lisa.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much for having me.
I cannot thank Lisa enough for coming on the podcast today. I mean, we often hear about big tech companies such as Adobe and Microsoft, and we've all seen those buzzword-littered news articles and press releases as they dominate our timelines and news feeds. But for me, hearing how Adobe and Microsoft engineers are actually working together to remove our pain points, simplify processes, keep them secure, and of course, improve experiences. That is the sweet spot right there. And that's why I'm so passionate about educating people and spreading the word of how tech is doing so much more good than bad in the world. That's why I record this show every day and why I love chatting with Lisa today. But what about you? Any takeaways, thoughts, or any comments about anything that we've talked about today? Now, you'll find pictures, links, and all details about today's guest over on my website, techblogwriter.co.uk, where you can also learn more about how you can work with me directly too. But if you want to just send me a quick email, you can get me at techblogwriter@outlook.com, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, wherever it is that you hang out. If you want to send me a quick DM, send me a message. Just look for Neil C. Hughes. I look forward to hearing from you all. As always, keep those messages coming in. And I'll return tomorrow with another great guest and an intriguing story too. So thanks for listening, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.